just me and the world's best tasting vodka.
Guys, welcome back to another edition of Off the Dribble. This is your boy B. Scott. I'm here with another great friend of mine and a brother that came in my last year with the Los Angeles Lakers, his rookie year. And we don't talk about this enough, but D. Fish and Kobe, Travis Knight came in as rookies, and I had an opportunity and a chance to be with all three of them brothers. This young man, 5-time NBA champion with the Los Angeles Lakers, and we all know about the shot he hit in San Antonio with damn near no time on the clock. I'm speaking of the one and only, my boy Derek Fisher. D. Fish, brother, you know how I love you. You know how much I love you, boy. I mean, it's been too long. I just want to, as we always do, our customary toast. I got to give my toast to my boy D. Fish for joining me today. I appreciate you for the show.
Yes, indeed.
Now, D, let's get right into it, man. I mean, start of your NBA career. You get drafted 21, 22? Yeah, 24.
Yep.
First round from a little school in Arkansas by the Los Angeles Lakers. And your debut with the Lakers as a rookie, I mean, you played a lot as a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, how was that experience?
First of all, like, just to be here is a blessing, man. Like I'm telling you, we obviously go way back, but like before we met, we go way back because I was a fan of your teams when you played, and so for us to be sitting here just having a conversation like this is, I still have to pinch myself sometimes, man, that this is my life. So to start my playing career, like it was crazy because I wasn't anticipating being drafted at all, especially not in the first round. But to be drafted by my favorite team,
right,
to have a chance to play for the Lakers after being such a big Lakers fan as a little kid, it was just a dream come true. And always, I took it seriously. And,
yes, you did.
And every opportunity, like I had to prove and show that I deserved to be here. I didn't want to waste that chance. So whether it was practice, shoot around, preseason, regular season, like I tried to treat it the same. And I feel like you have to respect the game that way. Otherwise, it's just, you cheating it. So that's how, like, getting started, I just tried to always have that mentality, man. So when I got thrown out there, Nick Van Exel picked up like 2 fouls in like 45 seconds. And I think that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me, was in the, like, 1 minute into my first game, I got thrown on the court. And so I wasn't able to sit there and freak out about like being in the
no
NBA.
time to really think about it. It was just like, oh, I got to play.
I just had to go play.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Well, I mean, me and you go so far back.
Yeah.
And like we just talked about, your rookie year, and we both had the opportunity to be in the presence of Kobe.
Yeah.
And watch his work ethic, just like your work ethic.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that enough. One of the hardest working guys I've ever seen on the basketball court as well. One of the toughest, too. I want y'all to understand something. D. Fish didn't take no shit. D. Fish didn't take no shit. You hit him with a bow, he going to get you back, okay? I mean, he going to get you back somewhere at the point in time in the game. He going to get you back. But I want you to talk a little bit about your relationship that you and Kobe had, because you guys were tight for all those championships.
Yeah. I mean, the relationship and the brotherhood it started in that first year.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I played more than him.
Yeah.
For most of our rookie season.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was, Kobe was positionless almost. So there wasn't really a clear position for him to play. You had Nick Van Exel at the point. I was the backup guard.
Right.
You had Eddie Jones and Sid and that, like, different guys. And so what position was he supposed to play? And so in our rookie year, we spent a lot of time working out after practice, before practice, full court one-on-one battles, just trying to push each other. And that's where the relationship really formed. I think that for a guy that was as talented as anybody that we've ever seen, for us to end up being brothers the way we were, I think the only way that happened was him seeing the competitive spirit and the toughness and the work ethic and how much I was willing to sacrifice in order for the team to win.
Right.
That's what he respected the most. He knew that he was going to be one of the all-time greats, and I wasn't. Right? So it wasn't about, comparing the talent, but I just think he appreciated how hard I worked at it. And I think that was always the constant common denominator between why we always got along.
Yeah, he was the ultimate tester.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's going to test guys at practice to see who he can be in that foxhole with.
Yeah.
And if you didn't back down to him, and you worked as hard as him, he respected you.
Yeah.
But if you back down, he had no respect for you whatsoever. And then he gonna mess with you the rest of your damn time with the Lakers until he can get your ass out of there.
Literally gonna test you.
Yeah, he gonna just keep testing you. But I think that was the beauty of his game. Yeah. Is the fact that he would basically say, "Listen, I'm gonna go all out every single night. If you don't, I can't have you. I can't trust you.
Yeah, no.
If you're willing to do it, I can trust you."
Yeah, nah, he didn't. Trust was big, and not just trust in terms of performance, but just like you said, trust that you weren't going to back down from the competition, right? Like, even if he knew that, okay, you're matching up with somebody that is great, Allen Iverson, John Stockton, whoever that.
Right.
It wasn't about him thinking that, okay, you're supposed to be as productive as Allen Iverson in order for me to trust you. But the way he would test, teammates in practice and in shoot around was for him to find out, okay, well, if John Stockton or Allen Iverson or Ray Allen or somebody on the other team starts pushing you around like this, what you gonna do? Right. And so that was all the game of chess that he played with his own team in order to figure out who can he rely on, who can he trust. And I just feel very fortunate that I was able to earn that trust over the years.
Yeah. Now, D Fish tried to put himself out of the category of talking about, Kobe we knew was going to be great, and he was just don't believe that, y'all. One of the best Lakers of all time. One of the most winningest Lakers of all time. Also, the most playoff appearances of all time until 2020, when LeBron, finally broke that. That shows your durability and everything, but that's a hell of a record to have, in the NBA all those years. How did that make you feel?
Just really special, man. Like I said, I grew up. I was just back home. I was out scouting college women's tournaments, and then I went home to Little Rock for a day and a half, see the family, and I went to this event. It was like a Chamber of Commerce event, and it was a moderated Q&A, so they were asking questions and different things. And growing up in Little Rock, like the NBA wasn't that close. Like there was no Memphis Grizzlies.
Right.
The St. Louis
no
Hawks.
team close.
No team was close. The Dallas Mavericks maybe was the closest that you got. So I didn't really think of like the NBA as this accessible thing that I could get to. It wasn't until later when I got to college and started getting better that like maybe I could get there. So then when you fast forward, to 2020, and I'm still sitting at the top of this list with all of the players that have played this game. I know I wouldn't have gotten there without the greats that I was able to be alongside of, because they do all the heavy lifting, and guys like me get the benefit of their greatness, and then like you said, the durability, being able to stay healthy. But and how fitting it was for like, LeBron now wearing a Lakers jersey,
right,
to move up to number one on that list, man. I only thing I'd say to people is, that 259 games is like another 3 years.
Right. They don't understand that if you play 12 or 13 years in the NBA and you got 200 and some games in the playoffs, that's like 16, 17 years because the intensity level in the playoffs goes sky high.
Yeah.
The preparation goes sky high. So that's that much more wear and tear on your mind and your body because you're getting prepared for battles.
Yeah.
So playoff games is like, to me, almost every 2-3 playoff games is like 5 or 6 regular season games.
It is.
You know what I mean? So that takes so much out of your career as well. I want to go back to one more thing with you. Where did you get that work ethic? I mean, where did that come from? You know, I know for me, you know, D, when I was growing up and my mom and dad, you know, both working, you know, trying to get us out of the hood, trying to get us to, I mean, they got me out of South Central LA and moved us to Inglewood. And we thought Inglewood was like Bel Air. And Inglewood was still a hood, you know. It was just a little bit higher up hood, you know what I mean? But I was working my ass off to try to get to the NBA, to try to be successful, to kind of really get them out of that. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my motivation that drove me. What was your determination that gave you that work ethic that you end up having for so many years?
Yeah, no, it was similar. Like once it started to become possible, I did start to view it as a way of like I can change things for my family.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really late. I think early, kind of like what you mentioned, like watching your mom and dad or a family member, an uncle and aunt, like watching how hard they worked just to provide and make sure that we were safe. You know, we didn't live in the best part of Little Rock. It wasn't the worst part, but you know, I never wanted for anything necessarily that you know, we had a safe roof, we had a clean house, we had food, we had the things that we needed.
Right.
But my parents worked really hard to provide those things, and I saw their struggles and how hard it was to be married and to try to raise kids and to try to provide a living for those kids. And that's the only way that I ever knew that you could get something in life was to work your ass off for it.
Right.
If you don't earn it or work for it, then it's not gonna happen.
Right.
So that's everything that I do. That's what I lean on. Like my talent was I'm gonna be able to work as hard as you or harder than you for longer than you.
Right.
Right. So even if you're taller, you know, your wingspan is greater, you faster, you can do whatever you think you can do better than me.
Right.
You are not gonna work harder than me for longer than me.
You know what, D? It's funny because I remember one night I was running, and I was running in the rain because it was my night to run.
Yeah.
And I finished this run, and I come back in the house, and I'm just worn out, right? And my ex-wife, she's like, "Why would you do that?" You know, and my answer to her was, "There's a 6'4" guard in Florida somewhere that's running the day 2 in sunshine, and I can't allow him to outwork me." And like you could be more talented, you know, but I can't control that, but I can control how hard I work.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to allow anybody to outwork me. And so we go way back, so we know how that is.
Real.
Let's transfer from your playing days. You finished playing, and which I think everybody who knew you knew this was coming. You go get into coaching. I was like, I know he get it. I mean, he's too smart. He understands the game. Ain't no way in hell he ain't gonna coach, right? And you get your first coaching job with the Knicks. Tell us about that experience.
Oh man, I was so obsessed with playing and winning, even though, like you said, like coaching was a natural transition. I had not, like the way I'm wired, I can't move on to the next thing until I like finish this thing. So I didn't really like see myself coaching until I got hired as a coach, because I was still, at that time, you know, I just finished the season in Oklahoma City.
Right.
And, you know, those teams with Durant and Westbrook, when I first got there, Harden was there. You know, it was a team that was pushing the Spurs for, you know, being the best in the West and going to the finals. So I was still pursuing that championship as a player. And I wasn't quite sure that I was ready to stop playing to do something else. So when Phil called and we started having a conversation, I had to ask myself, like, okay, you can't play forever no matter what.
Right.
Like nobody's gonna play forever. And you love the game. Like this is a natural next step for you, and you can now continue to be involved in basketball for the next 20 years.
Right.
You know, you've been playing from 1996 to 2014.
Right.
So now you could start coaching.
Hell of a career
from 2014 to however long you want to do it. And you know, as you know, the job is not easy. And I had no idea what I was actually stepping into, although I knew I was stepping into the responsibilities of trying to help these guys achieve their goals, their objectives, help them to be the best versions of themselves. But the transition was tough. Like, I was trying to figure out how to be a coach, right? Even though I just left the players' locker room.
Right.
And so getting hired in New York, and all of a sudden I'm coaching Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire and Travis Outlaw and guys that I had just been playing against for many years.
Right.
I was trying to figure out how to separate myself in some ways as like, I'm your coach, but also it's so important to have a strong relationship and bond with your players.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the way we grew up playing the game.
No,
Our
coaches didn't have no
warm and fuzzy like that.
Not at all.
You know what I mean?
Do what I say. That's basically it, you know.
So I really went through this weird kind of transition of trying to figure out, okay, you just started coaching, you just finished playing. You want, Melo and the guys to respect you. So you have to kind of start to establish some boundaries.
Right.
But then you don't want to be so removed from being connected to your guys that
you have no connection with them whatsoever. Yeah, it's a fine line.
It really is. And so the biggest one that I feel like this really, like, it confused me and it made the transition even more difficult, where I feel like it pushed me away from being closer to guys. So the summer of my first year, I decided to coach the summer league team because I wanted to get as many coaching reps as I could going into my first year. And Shannon Brown, who I played with in LA, he was finishing up his contract in New York, so he was still under contract. And since Phil Jackson was the president of the team, and we were trying to figure out, okay, are we running the triangle? What we're going to do? We wanted to have Shannon be involved in summer league practices and workouts to help other guys learn the triangle because he had played in it before.
Right.
So Shannon was gracious enough, even though he had been in the league multiple years, to still come to Vegas, be a part of summer league. And he was just supposed to practice, not play in the games. But he's a competitor. So once the games came, he was like, I want to play in the games too.
Yeah.
So he played in a couple games, and then as a coach, you're not always involved in managerial decisions. You wish you were.
Right.
But some decisions are not, it's above your pay grade, basically.
Right.
So there, a couple games in the summer league, the decision was that they weren't going to renew Shannon's contract going into the following year.
Okay.
That night before, because Shannon and I played together, myself, my ex-wife, Shannon, his ex-wife, Monica, we all went out for pizza, hanging out, just catching up.
Right.
The next morning, this decision is made, unbeknownst to me.
But he don't think so.
There's no way.
I was about to say, I know where that's going.
There's no way he can't think so.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like Shannon and I haven't really talked, in many years.
Wow.
Not because I don't know if he's that pissed off about it or not, but there's no way to think that I didn't know anything.
Right.
Even though I didn't.
Right.
But how can I really justify,
like
the night before going to pizza and hanging out, and then the next day the team is like, okay, well, we're going in a different direction.
That's the company line.
Yeah.
We're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
And like you said, I can understand where he's coming from as well. But you're right. There's a lot of times we're in that position that we have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
When I was in New Orleans, they traded Tyson Chandler while I was in the Bahamas. And I didn't know until I got to a camp in the Bahamas, and a kid comes up to me and says, "You guys traded Tyson Chandler?" I was like, "No, we didn't." He said, "Yeah, you did. You traded him to Oklahoma." I was like, "What?" So I had to get on the phone.
Right.
"Oh yeah, I was just gonna call you and let you know." Wow. I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
So I understand exactly what you're talking about and what you went through as a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Did that leave a bad taste in your mouth? Because that transition, like you said, D, for you wasn't easy. And I think that's one of the questions. The second part of that question would be, do you think for you, because I know I went into assistant coaching first for 2 years before I went into head coach. Do you think, because you jumped straight in from a player to a head coach, do you think that transition, if you'd have went to an assistant for a year or two, would have been a lot easier or better? What do you think?
I think so from tactical, strategical X's and O's standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things about being a head coach that you do need to understand yourself, even though you have a staff,
right,
that can provide great support. There are tons of assistant coaches on the men's side and women's side that could be head coaches tomorrow.
I agree.
And so the things that you learn, I believe, just in coaching, regardless of kind of which seat you're in, the more experience you have, I think the better.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question that I would have understood some things more about how to manage the job. But I also think that there can be an advantage to not having baggage going into a situation, right?
No, I agree.
You're not scarred by previous experiences or
Right.
situations. You can come at an opportunity with just fresh ideas, be creative, try something because maybe it's never been tried before.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes.
Mhm.
Like that, I think that, and I didn't even fully understand that in terms of like how other coaches around the league would or could feel about a guy that hasn't
Right.
coached at all,
That had no experience whatsoever.
no experience,
Yeah.
all of a sudden being a head coach
Right.
in a big market on a major team like the New York Knicks, how that could make other guys feel. And I didn't have coaching relationships because I had never coached. Right. So a lot of that transition for me in terms of building coaching relationships, which then go into, when you're trying to put your staff together,
Right.
Who can you hire? Or like all coaches do, when you get fired, who else wants to bring you on?
Right.
Because you have coaching relationships.
Right.
So then when I got fired in New York, I didn't have other coaches that I had either served under as assistant coaches, or if I had been a head coach that I had gotten to know.
Right.
So then all of a sudden you get fired and you're looking around and you don't really know all these coaches like that.
Right.
So they're not going to come and put you on their staff because they're not sure
right.
you
No,
want
they
my
don't,
job
they don't know
or
you.
what. They don't know you like that.
Yeah.
And so, I don't regret that aspect of it because that's what kind of led to when the opportunity to coach the Sparks in the WNBA was presented. I knew I wanted to coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for the women's game. And I didn't really view it as a step down or somehow a weaker move to make. I knew I wanted to coach, and there's no better way to improve at something than to do it.
Right.
So now 4 years later, I'm glad that I did. And then learning from getting the call in the Bahamas that a player's been traded.
Right.
The first opportunity I could become the general manager of the Sparks, I also made sure that happened so I wouldn't get a phone call.
Right. So you making the phone calls now.
Yes.
You ain't getting the phone call. I was going to ask you about that because that transition seems to have been a whole lot smoother.
Yeah.
You're going into the Sparks, coaching the WNBA, now taking over as a general manager position as well. So you got two hats you're wearing.
Yeah.
Which is great because you answer to you, basically. You know what I'm saying? Anything that goes wrong, you know who to blame. It's on me. You know what I mean? And we as we like that responsibility, to be honest with you. Because listen, if I'm going to put a team together, and lose, okay, I'll take the blame. But if I'm coaching a team and he's putting the team together and putting players out there that I necessarily don't really want, and then you fire me, well, what the hell?
Correct.
So if I'm going to cook the dinner, let me put the ingredients in the food. You know what I'm saying? So I was going to ask you about that transition. How much different is it for you? Because now you're coaching women, which I think are so much more fundamentally sound than guys. The WNBA compared to the NBA, what's the biggest difference besides obviously women and men?
Yeah, no, I think for me, like where I think the greatest difference lies is the guys that are playing in the NBA for so many years, the resources, the trainers, the facilities, like the investment in their greatness, the ability to have an off season to add some shit to your game, right? And get better from one year to the next.
Right.
Female players and athletes don't have that. They go straight from the WNBA to overseas in the winter in Europe, and then they come right back in the spring and roll right back into another WNBA season. So they never get the opportunity to have an off season where they can get better right? And see that growth and that confidence that comes from putting a lot of work in on your skills. So for me, I think the biggest difference is that on an NBA team, if it's 15 guys, there's probably 7 of them guys that think they're the best dude on the team.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. If not more,
right?
You know?
He either was recently, or thinks that he is going to be if he keeps working
eventually,
at it,
right.
On a WNBA team, it's hard-pressed to find one that really thinks of herself as like, not only am I the best player on my team, but I want to be the best player in the world.
Right.
You know, I want to be the greatest player to ever, like, there's not that type of natural, organic thinking, and that comes from what her experience has been. Right? We haven't shown women that we care about her greatness to that degree because she's not getting paid a lot of money to be great as a WNBA player, right? We don't watch it on TV. We don't give it the same ratings. Corporate sponsors don't invest in it the same way. So she doesn't feel incentivized in the same way that a young man does to like reach the highest levels of her potential. So then WNBA players have to build their brands off the court, or they have to go to another country to make more money in order to feel that sense of gratification and fulfillment and that I'm the best at something. So to me, that's where the difference lies, is that if you're coaching men, there's no shortage of ego, confidence, bravado, belief that I can be the greatest to ever do this, or I'm the best on this team, and then I'm gonna lead my teammates, or my work ethic is gonna match that confidence or belief in myself. On the W side, you don't have as many women that feel that sense of like, okay, my work ethic is gonna match the belief that I'm the baddest girl out here.
Right.
Which then lifts everybody else up, right? It goes back to like the Kobe Bryant example, the Magic example, your example. Like, you lifted everybody up by them seeing your work ethic. And that's where I think the shift is starting to happen now on the women's side, is that like the younger players that are coming in
a little bit more cocky.
They're coming in a little more, with a lot more swagger.
They got some shit with them now.
A lot more confidence. They got a lot more in their game. And so I think the women's game is well positioned to really grow in the next 2 to 5 years because of that. But that, to me, that's where the difference is. Like, the game is the same. I think female athletes shoot the ball. Their mechanics are better. They're more fundamentally sound. They want to be coached. They listen. But I think the real excitement is going to come when fans turn the game on and they see players that have that. Like, people gravitate towards people that feel that they're great.
Right.
You know, and when players are out there swagged out, confidence is up, you know, shot clock's running down, and they just going between the legs and looking at defender right in the face, like,
and then boom,
I knew that I was about to do this. Like, fans appreciate that, and I think it's on the way though.
Yeah, I agree with you, guys. We're gonna come back because I want to talk a little bit more about the WNBA with D Fish. We're gonna take a short break, hear some words from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Black Widow is a conglomerate of attorneys and investigators that are community-based. They started from a personal traumatic loss that turned into a platform for human dignity and rights. Black Widow always finds ways to eradicate the wrongs and produce positive results beyond all boundaries, and they always pay it forward. Black Widow can handle any and all legal matters, including motorcycle injuries, car accidents, trips and falls, criminal matters, family law, workers' compensation, and restraining orders, and more. In all industries where money rules and basics give rights are overcome by greed, we strive to make it about humanity by repeatedly educating and informing the masses of their rights. If you have ever felt frustrated or anger that you have been done wrong, that's the fire that fuels Black Widow. When you are done listening to all the rest, call Black Widow for the blunt truth. Call 818-599-3613. Again, that's 818-599-3613. Or you can find us on Instagram at Black Widow _investigation. Welcome back, guys. It's your boy B. Scott off the dribble. I'm here with my boy Derek Fisher, a longtime Laker, 5-time NBA champion, one of the best people you will ever meet if you haven't met him. And he's not like a lot of these other athletes. If you see D. Fish on the street, he'll say hello to you if you say hi. He won't be like, get the hell away from me. He ain't like that, believe me. But we're going to go back to the topic that we were just talking about, the WNBA. D. Fish is the general manager and the head coach of the LA Sparks. We talked earlier. He's had a very successful summer, or going into the summer. We're getting ready to play this year with the Sparks. But the one thing that we didn't talk about, and we've been talking about, I guess, kind of roundabout way, the difference between the NBA and the WNBA. We know obviously the salaries in the NBA are crazy, and it's nowhere near that in the WNBA. Is that one of the things you think? I'm sure you have other thoughts that will bring that, bring the WNBA to a level where the girls, the women that play this game, can have the same access as far as working out during the summer instead of having to go overseas to make extra money to get by. Is that one of the main reasons? And if so, what's some of the other ones, D?
Yeah, no, I do think it is one of the priorities because, if a female player, basketball player, cannot, train and prepare herself for the season coming up, the quality of the game suffers.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so if we're going to continue to ask fans to come out and support us, to turn on the TV and watch us, we want our players to be at their absolute best.
Yes.
When they turn on the TV, on the NBA side, and they see Steph doing what he does, or Kevin Durant, or Joel Embiid, or Nikola Jokic, like they feel like they're seeing a special performance on a given night.
Right.
And so we want to create that on the WNBA side. And players, they need to have the opportunity to prepare their bodies and their minds to have that special run, to be one of the best players in the league. And so I think it's headed in that direction, but I think also for the players, right? If I know it's the WNBA just celebrated its 25th anniversary. The NBA just celebrated its 75th.
Right.
Anniversary. So you have that 50-year gap that is there. Right. That if you start to think about where we want the WNBA to be in the future, right? Even if the money isn't completely there today, like, you didn't cheat the game because you're not making what the guys that are playing now are making. Right? You still respected the game enough and respected your family and what they sacrificed enough to know that you had to go out there and work your tail off.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what your salary was.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm going out here to let people know who I am and what I'm about. And so I think in some ways we also have to continue to message that to our players in the W, that regardless of what your salary is, what your check says, you still have to find a way to reach the depths of your greatness, because the better you can perform, even if you're not making a lot, you're moistening the soil for the little 10-year-old girl.
That's right, yeah.
That's watching you.
Yeah.
And you want her, when she turns on a WNBA game or she comes out to crypto to watch the Sparks, you want her leaving that building feeling inspired by your performance. And maybe you only make $60,000. And in a decade, when she comes along, she might make $600,000.
Right.
But you started that.
You paved the way.
You paved the way.
You paved the way, yeah.
And if we can get more of that thinking, into our women athletes in the W, I think that'll go a long way. But that's easy for us to say as men.
Right.
We haven't experienced this world.
It's a whole different situation.
As the experience that women have had in this world, like that. Why do they have to wait? Right. We've been waiting our whole lives to be respected, to be valued, to be appreciated. Right. Don't tell us that. Wait another 50 years.
Yeah. Maybe just 25.
Right.
Maybe just 20. Since we got to 25. Maybe just 25.
They want it now, and and rightfully so.
Which is understandable. Yeah.
It's understandable. We have to respect it and have a certain level of compassion for it. But the main thing I'm just trying to do is do my part to try and help move in that direction.
Yeah.
It takes a village to do anything, and I think when you think about Kobe and Gigi and the impact that they were having on the girls' game and the women's game, somebody has to pick that up. And I know I'm not him. I don't bring what he brings, but I value the opportunity to work with women and female athletes, and I feel blessed. I'm excited for this upcoming season for us. I think we're gonna give people a lot of reasons to come out and watch us play.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I know you were excited when we were sitting down about what you were able to kind of put together for the team this year. And I saw that little gleam in your eye. Like, yeah, B, yeah, I got some horses now.
Yeah.
So the LA Sparks fans, what can they expect?
Well, first they can expect. Hopefully, we continue to move in the right direction with this. Pandemic. It seems like it's never going to end.
Right.
So we don't want to jinx it, but we are moving in that direction, and hopefully we continue to move that way. Where first, our fans are going to be able to come out
to the game, yeah,
droves,
exactly, right,
and cheer for us and support us, and put that energy into it. But in terms of the team itself, the Sparks historically, when you think about the teams in the early 2000s, with Lisa Leslie and Delisha Milton-Jones, Mawadi Mabika, like what those teams were able to accomplish. Basketball was at an all-time high in LA at that time.
Yeah.
The Lakers were winning championships. The Sparks were winning championships. But it took, as you know, like Lisa Leslie's greatness, is that was the foundation of that. And I think right now after this offseason, having Nneka Ogwumike and then being able to sign Liz Cambage, I think we're going to have the best front court in all of basketball. And right so when those two players are the foundation of what you're doing, it gives you a chance to be really successful. So we have to do the work, but I just think fans can expect us playing hard and working hard. But I think also just like a style of play and a combination of personalities that are going to be fun to support.
Right.
It was like watching you guys. It was like the different personalities, right? Irv's personality, Cap's personality, your personality, big game. Like that's what really, Kurt with the goggles.
Right.
There was just certain things that it allowed people to gravitate towards the team.
Right.
Not just the success, but like these guys look like they having fun doing this.
Right. And we were.
Right.
Just like you guys were,
Yes.
you and Shaq and Kobe and, Robert, Ori. So
that's what I'm hoping that, and I think we're going to be able to create this year.
Well, I know I'm going to be coming to some games. Like you said, with this pandemic, and we're going to knock on wood. I don't know if that's – here we go. Where the arenas are open and we can come.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely be there to support and check them out because I know it's going to be an exciting year for you this year.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Big.
I'm going to go back to the NBA just a little bit. You were a player rep for so many years in the NBA and took the position and the job extremely well, and you took it extremely serious as well. Tell us about your stint for that 7 years of being the player representative for the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. It all started in 1999. We had the lockout in the NBA. That was after I think I finished my third year, or going into my third year, and it's a big lockout, and there was a big player meeting in Las Vegas, and Michael Jordan and Karl Malone and Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing, like all the biggest guys in the league showed up for this meeting. So I knew it was important because if those guys are showing up, something's
something's happening. Yeah,
this is serious.
Right.
But as a second-year player and going into my third year, I didn't really understand the nuances and the details of what was happening. Like I was mostly just reading on the news what was going on. And so after that lockout was finished, I made a decision that was going to be the last time I felt like I didn't understand what was going on with the league, the Players Association. I wanted to be an active participant, in the process. I didn't want to just stand on the sideline and wait for a bunch of other people to decide on my future.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get in there.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
So that's when I started becoming a player rep, for the teams that I played on.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately that led to me running for a seat on the executive committee on the board. And I was vice president. And then when Antonio Davis basically retired as a player, then I became president of the Players Association. And it was an amazing experience just having that responsibility to represent all 450 plus guys.
Right.
It's not about just me or even the current guys, right? It's you're making tough decisions based on the good of the game overall, where the league and the players ultimately will need to go. Not exactly what's happening today. And there were some great days. There were some tough days.
Right.
There were times where my leadership was questioned, but that comes with leadership. That comes with being a leader. And for me, I've always been willing to jump on the grenade, so to speak. To save everybody else, I'll take the hit. And that's what being the president of the Player Association is like. Like you might get questioned. People may second guess what you are doing, and you may have to question some people. Right. Because during my tenure, like there were some questions that needed to be asked on behalf of all players. And so that led to some animosity and some questions, and I was second guessed. Our former executive director was questioned and second guessed. But at the end of the day, as far as I know, and I'm not in it like I was, the NBA Players Association is as strong and as powerful and as impactful as it has ever been. And I take a tremendous amount of pride in that, because I feel like the guys that, just like for you guys, like you set the table for us and cleared the path for us, we did that for the guys that are now benefiting from the things that we were able to do. And then hopefully, with Chris and there's a new executive director, Tamika, I'm not sure of her last name and how to pronounce it, but she's come in, and I think to going from where the Player Association was to now they've had 2 Black female executive directors helping to run the Players Association. Like it's just grown a lot over the years, and I'm thankful to have served, and I'm glad guys are benefiting from those that came before them.
Yeah, you look at all the major sports, NBA Players Association, like you said, might be the best organization in all of major sports when it comes to keeping their players involved, keeping them updated, trying to get the very best for not only the players that are playing, but the players that are coming behind them. I've always admired you when you were, president, and I've watched a lot of the interviews when you were under fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you were under fire, but you never flinched.
Yeah.
And that to me, but I already knew it. And so when I was CD, I was like, man, D good. Never flinched when they were questioning you about some of the leadership decisions that you guys were making. And I think, again, it just shows how strong-willed and how confident you are in the people with you and the people behind you in the things that you guys were trying to accomplish. And you guys did an unbelievable job. And I agree with you as far as passing that baton. CP3, when he said Chris, guys, that's Chris Paul, who is president now of Players Association, has done a wonderful job as well. And I think he sees that vision, or has that vision that you had back in the day, of making sure that you set the table for the next generation.
Correct.
So, D, you've done an unbelievable job, brother. Now, listen, you've had an unbelievable NBA career, 18 years. Was it 18, right? 18 years in the NBA, 5-time champion. You go to Oklahoma, you get to the finals. Success has followed you everywhere you've been. There's something that a lot of people out there probably don't know about you that you would think is either, kind of funny about you or serious. What would that be? I mean, what is something that your fans don't know about Derek Fisher as a person, not the player, as a person?
That's a good question, man. I think because of, I've always been a very serious, right, like minded guy, strong-willed, work hard, leader, And so I think people always, in a lot of ways, rightfully assume that
Right.
I'm a very serious guy. And I am to a large degree. Like
Right.
I take what I do seriously.
Right.
I'm not a comedian. I don't consider myself to be funny necessarily, but I like to have fun too. I'm a pretty fun dude to be around and hang around. And my wife and I, we laugh about it all the time. Like she sees a version of me and our
that nobody
kids
else
and our
probably
family
sees.
that nobody else sees, and that sometimes you have to be careful how much you show the world about your personal life, so to speak. But that is one thing that I want to be intentional about how I continue to, because I think it's important for young people to see as well, right?
Right. See that other side of it.
To see that other side, because we we're not always the ones you see on the court or on the camera. We have children, we have grandchildren, we have wives, we have things that we're, managing and dealing with that make us very human and vulnerable. And young people need to see that. That sometimes, we have moments that are great moments or moments that are not so great, and how we handle those things. I think it's important for people to see.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing that in the years coming up, if I'm blessed enough to continue to live this life, I want to continue to make sure people get to see the entire me.
Yeah.
And not just that lens of leader, serious guy. You was able to do and cool, but
right.
I'm as regular of a dude as you can get, man. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. Like I'm super chill. But yeah, like this is like sitting around watching the game, talking, kicking it. Like that's me. And I want to find a way to probably share a little bit more of that at some point.
It's funny because me and you so much alike in so many ways. Is the one regret I have about my coaching stint. And luckily, I ended up coaching for like 17 years, and I regret the fact that I didn't let the players and people see a little bit more of me, because I'm like you. I'm a fun guy. I call myself a closet comedian because I think I'm funny. I be talking shit and cracking jokes on dudes, and especially on the golf course. You know how we do. I'm going to have some fun. But my boy Silas White, who was my manager for a number of years, Silas would talk to people and they was like, well, coach is so stoic and blah. They was like, he was like, y'all don't know. Yeah. He is nothing really like that. Right. The guy is a lot of fun and blah, blah, blah. He just got to open up. Right. Yeah. And I wish I would have done that a lot earlier. And I'm glad you said that, because you're absolutely, you got to let people see the real deep fish. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you're right.
There's going to always be that stoic, hard looking, tough exterior that we have at times, but, enjoy it. Yeah. Let them see the fun part of you, and let them see that great personality that you have as well.
Thank you.
Because you do have it.
Yeah.
I know it because we've been around enough, and we I know it, but let the world know it as well.
I appreciate you saying that, man. It means a lot. Like the example for us was what we're showing, right? Like the great leaders that came before us, they were stoic. They
didn't show a lot of emotion.
They were even keeled.
Right.
Didn't show a lot of emotion. That was the image of a strong leader that we grew up internalizing, or that we were taught to be.
Right.
And so I'm a fan of the movement towards leaders coming in all shapes and sizes and colors and different makeups, and that and I think the folks that you work with or you hope to inspire, they respond well to knowing who you are authentically and being able to relate to who you are, right? And I think a lot of athletes struggle with that, whether it's on the men's side or the women's side. Like that, how many of their leaders have been through what they're going through, right? And that's that benefit, I think, of you coaching 17 years and now me, continuing to build my coaching career. We've been where a lot of those players have been, where they want to get to, what it's like to be in this position, under the spotlight, under the scrutiny. that's hard to come by.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are ways now, which even with this form of content and what you're doing here, having these conversations, like people are getting a chance to see a piece of you or a part of you that they didn't know.
Right.
You know, when you played and even during your coaching years, that they're getting to see here now.
Right.
And that's the beauty of change and evolution. You know?
Yeah. We got to continue to try to grow.
Yes, sir.
As people. So, D-Fish, man, thank you so much, my brother.
No doubt.
I appreciate you. You know, I love you to death.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for joining us,
Yeah.
guys. That's my boy. That's Derek Fisher. That's all I can say. You know, you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed another edition of Off the Dribble with your boy B Scott. But again, for my boy Derek Fisher, appreciate you being here. You know, man, I love this dude. This is my boy. We got to play some more golf though.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing.
it.
We are out, guys. Take care. B Scott out.